From a felon addict in a halfway house to owning a multi-million-dollar watch company, Anthony FARRER went back to his addiction and stole $5 million from his clients. In this video, we're going to talk about why he hasn't changed with any of the videos he's posted, and why the people who lost all that money in their watches and monetary value are never going to see a dollar of that money, and why Anthony deserves to be in prison again. Stay tuned. Hey, I'm Chase, and this is All Things Random. Today, I'm going to try to put a different perspective on what's out there on the internet right now with Anthony FARRER and the Timepiece Gentleman. Now, I'm coming at this from a law enforcement point of view because that's my background, as well as addiction, because I myself have suffered mental health and addiction that I've actually gone through 5 weeks of a rehab thanks to my job. So I'm going to be looking at it from a slightly different point of view than everybody else. A lot of people are going to look at it like, hey, this is a Ponzi scheme, this was a scam, and you're right, it kind of was a Ponzi scheme that fell apart, a house of cards as it were, but we're going to get into a little more of the nitty-gritty of exactly what happened. Now, I'm going to break this video down into 5 separate parts. Each one are going to have headings, so you're going to know exactly what you're walking into. Now, in no way am I trying to make Anthony a victim, because he is not a victim, and I'm going to try to explain the beginning and the end and how you could never trust him again, and how you really have to be careful. Now, a little bit of the background of what's going on. Now, the Timepiece Gentleman is a watch dealership created by Anthony, where if you want to sell your watches, you can either sell it to them and they can resell it at their own price, or you can do something called consignment. Consignment is where I can sign a contract and Anthony and the Timepiece Gentleman, or whoever his people are going to sell, an example, my Rolex Yachtmaster. If I have a Rolex Yachtmaster and I want to sell it for $13,000, let's just say, this is all just hypothetical, what I'll do is I'll sign a consignment contract with them. I'll send them my watch. I'll verify they got my watch. They have my watch. Then they'll sell it on my behalf and take a 5% or whatever commission that we agree on. That is what consignment is. So you understand moving forward. So there's 2 different ways that they sell watches. They either purchase watches and sell it on their own, or they do it through consignment, where they take a percentage of the fee, then they give you back the rest of the money. So with all that understood, let's just go ahead and get into why Anthony became the monster he is today, because he is truly a monster. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why he'll never change, because I'm going to lay it all out. In fact, one of the things that made me do this video was the pure fact that he released a video throwing out the victim mentality. Oh, woe is me, I'm an addict. Then the next video was completely opposite, and he already has a scheme in place and a plan in place. He's already scheming, and we'll get into all that. So let's start out with the very first premise, the beginning of Anthony and Timepiece Gentleman. Now, Anthony is a rags to riches story. That is why a lot of people love following him. He was an addict who was in a halfway house, who was a felon, who was in prison, and he was able to pull himself up by the American bootstraps that you all hear about and own a multi-million-dollar watch dealership. That is what we all dream of doing. I am middle class, barely, and I dream of that type of lifestyle like a lot of other Americans do. So we look at Anthony and say, hey, if he, a felon who's an addict in recovery, who was in a halfway house at one point in time, which means he's kind of getting his life back together through the court system, is able to create this massive company where he's flying around in private jets and everything else, I can do that too. So his story was very appealing, especially on Instagram, and he took all of that into account and created an Instagram empire and the Timepiece Gentleman by selling these watches on consignment or purchasing watches like I explained already in the beginning of the video. So he is a true hero story.
I just got done my deal, and wow.
right? From the ashes, he is like the phoenix rising into success. This portrayal of himself was very appealing, created a lot of social media intrigue, a lot of YouTube subscribers and followers, to include Instagram, and it pole vaulted him into a spot where maybe he shouldn't have been. Maybe success for him grew too fast. We'll get into that in just a second. But through his popularity, he gained mansions, private planes, million-dollar watches, and luxury cars nobody can afford, even with an entire lifetime worth of work. This is what made him so appealing, especially to a younger generation. Now, a lot of people today are addicted to social media, and it's all fueling this addiction to social media and lying about the lifestyle so you can get more likes, more follows, so you too can feed that addiction. Now, Anthony has told his story in the past that he was an addict and alcoholic, and he was sent to prison for crimes that he committed, and then he went to a halfway house, and then as a recovering addict, most recovering addicts, and I know this from experience, most recovering addicts will trade one addiction for another addiction. You guys have seen these guys in the gym who are ripped to their teeth, 8% body fat, they have all their meals laid out, their diet is extremely strict. What they're doing is they were powerless at one point in time in their life, and they are exuding power over the only thing they can, and that is their own physical well-being. These people trade one addiction over another addiction, and that is unhealthy in itself. Now, is it a healthier addiction than maybe doing heroin or alcohol or meth or cocaine? Absolutely. It is healthier to go to the gym than it is to do all that stuff, but it's still not healthy to have that unhealthy lifestyle. Now, this addiction can also be translated into something like work. Can you work too hard? Can you strive for success too hard that your addiction that you once have now makes you addicted to work, then addicted to the success that comes with that hard work, and then you continue to crave that burst of serotonin and dopamine, those rushes you get from the follows and likes and the comments from all the Instagram, from all the YouTube, and from the success of the business. Now, I have made over 420 review videos on this channel where I've handled hundreds of watches. A lot of these watches I've turned around and sold. I can tell you that there is a slight dopamine rush when it comes to selling and making money. Right? There is a dopamine rush, and it is an addictive type of thing. When you get your paycheck after a hard 2 weeks worth of work, you put in a bunch of overtime, you get that paycheck in the bank account, and you see that it's $1,000 more than it normally is. That's going to give you a slight dopamine rush, and you're going to keep chasing that high, especially if you're an addict already. Trading one addiction for another. And with social media, again, creating this dopamine and serotonin rush every time you get a like, every time you get a comment, every time you get a follower, just exacerbates the problem even more, especially if you're trying to grow a business. Now, if your business grows too fast, any business owner will tell you that there's two really bad things when growing a business. And I know, being a business owner myself, you can either grow too slow and die, or you grow too fast and die. And I think the issue is the timepiece gentleman exploded so quickly that his addiction got out of control, and then he spent so much trying to keep up the lifestyle that it all imploded underneath him. So trading one addiction for another. Now, this is not an excuse for his behavior. It's not an excuse for his $5 million of theft from his own clients. I am a person who avidly believes there's only two things you can do to me that will make me never want to deal with you again. One is stealing from me. Two is spitting in my face. Both are disrespectful. Both are unforgivable in my eyes, and he is a thief. Period. Now let's talk about the red flags that are everywhere. Now I've seen these red flags for years now following Anthony and the Timepiece Gentleman for as long as I have. I did a video a couple years ago when there was a controversy a couple years ago, and we'll get into that in just a second. But there's red flags left and right, and people will always go back, hindsight's 2020, and say, oh, I didn't see this or I didn't see that. But really, it's been like that the entire time. The red flags have been there, popping up left and right, and I'll go over some of the red flags in just a second. All this includes one of the last videos he posted like yesterday, also is full of red flags and why you could never trust him again. So let's talk about some of the red flags that you've seen. One is going to be the clout chasing. That is a massive red flag for anybody. If you look at CRM Jewelers or even Nico from Pride and Pinion, he may flex a little bit, but he doesn't flex nearly as much as someone like Anthony have. Then if you look at someone like Paul Thorpe, who was a watch dealer, retired watch dealer, who has a lot of money, you don't see him flexing his wealth like Anthony did. The reason why Anthony flexed his wealth like he did, not only did he come from an addiction background, but his self-esteem was so low that he felt like he had to flex his wealth. When people on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube are flexing their wealth so much in your face, it means they have such a low self-esteem of themselves that they are putting all this extra effort out there to get your approval. I don't need your approval. I don't give a flying fart about the things that you think about me. But some of these people, they care what you think. They look at the algorithms and they look at their followers and they say, oh, this right here, this picture of this Lamborghini that I posted got 50,000 likes and 120,000 views and 60,000 shares. And this picture right here, well, it only got 20,000 and it only got, 3,000 people sharing it. And it wasn't nearly as good. And I need to replicate this feeling of this dopamine hit. I'm going to keep coming back to that because it's that feeling that we get, that rush we get in ourselves that makes us want to continue to do these bad behaviors. Now, we are human beings with a logic center of our brain, a prefrontal cortex, right, that tells us, hey, this is not the right thing to do. And trust me, Anthony knew everything he did was wrong, and every excuse that he makes just makes him even more of a scummier person. Absolutely 100%. So the red flags were from the beginning, right? He wanted to tell you that he has a rags to riches story. He wants to tell you that this is my background. Feel sorry for me. Now be like me and come through this journey where I'm already successful. But let me explain to you my story. Now you may say, Chase, that's not really a big deal. This to me is all a trick, especially when you see the next post and the next post and the next post. And it has nothing to do with his rag to riches. It just has to do with his riches, period, and his flexing. People who need to flex are people who don't have much to flex to begin with. I've used the example of people who wear brands on their shirts, right? People who have the giant Gucci, right, signs or the Louis Vuitton symbols all over their shirts, right? I spent $1,000 for this t-shirt. Well, they spent $1,000 for the t-shirt because they want you to believe they have a lot of money, when in the bank account, they're in the negative or they're just hovering above zero. They want you to believe something that's not true. People who have a lot of money don't need to flex the fact they have a lot of money. And you can say, Chase, well, maybe he just likes the high quality of all these high quality brands. Well, a cotton t-shirt from Gucci that's $150 that uses the same cotton as a $30 t-shirt from Old Navy isn't high quality. It's garbage with a brand, and that brand is something you're trying to flex, which is all that Anthony ever tried to do ever, is try to flex. And he tried to flex while still keeping it low key. In fact, if you notice, he wears a ball cap. And he wears a ball cap not because he is one of the people. I truly believe he wears a ball cap because it is one of those things that he's thought about that, okay, well, I'm worth a lot of money and I want people to perceive me as being worth a lot of money, but I also want people to think that I'm one of them. right? That I am one of you. I am one of the lower class people where I used to drink Bud Light, not anymore, but I used to drink Bud Light and wear a baseball cap. And just because I go out and drink a $300 bottle of tequila and you only can afford a $30 bottle of tequila, we're basically the same because I wear a baseball cap. That's what he's doing. And he even did that in recent videos. He wore a sleeveless shirt and a baseball cap, and we'll get into that in that segment where he's trying to make you believe he's one of you when he's not one of you at all. Now let's talk about for a second him being exposed finally, his house of cards falling around him and his Ponzi scheme or near Ponzi scheme, or what ended up to be a Ponzi scheme, because I really don't think that Anthony meant his company to be a Ponzi scheme. It just turned out to be that way. Now, what is a Ponzi scheme? A Ponzi scheme is where people take money normally for investing and they expect a return. But what the person who's taking the money is doing is spending on their own lifestyle, then taking more money from other investors or more money from other people. Then when the lower people start to complain, they'll pay them out a little bit just to give some trust while people are still funneling in more money. And eventually the money's going to run out and nobody's going to have anything because the head of the Ponzi scheme is spending the money on their own lifestyle. That's what ended up happening. I don't think that's what Anthony's entire goal was. I think he got sucked into that through his bad behavior and addiction, and that doesn't mean he shouldn't go to prison, and we'll talk about that at the end. I truly believe Anthony should go to prison for a very long time because he stole $5 million from customers, and he's never going to repay it. And again, we'll get into that in the next segment. So him being exposed. So originally he was exposed on Paul Thorpe's channel, Paul Thorpe Watch Dealer, right? Where Paul is talking to a customer who tried to sell some watches through consignment through the Timepiece Gentleman and Anthony. And they were up for months on the website. And then suddenly they were down from the website. And he was like, well, nobody said anything. Nobody's sent me any money. I haven't got any wire transfers. Nobody sent me an email saying my watches have been sold. So where are my watches? So he started to inquire. And then suddenly he got some BS back. And then finally Anthony got in contact with him. And there was a bunch of BS back and forth. Oh, woe is me. Kind of garbage. And then finally, after 40 some customers started to complain, that's it. And Anthony was exposed. He finally released a video. And here's a quick snippet of that video.
Even more while I try to fix it. And, you know, it's gotten to where just living this fake lifestyle, this look at me, I'm smart, I'm successful, you know, keeping up the appearances, it's eating me alive. You know, I drink every night just to be able to go to sleep.
Now, first he would tell these customers that he was robbed. And then he finally came out and said, okay, I've been having an issue. I've been drinking a lot. I've been trying to keep up this fake lifestyle, and I'm really sorry. Woe is me. Victim, 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 just like anybody that I've seen. Now, I come from a recovery background, and I've seen all these people who don't want help, who stay in their addictions, whether or not it be addiction from social media or addiction to porn or addiction to substances. They stay in their addiction, and what they want to do is manipulate their way out of it so they can continue their addiction, or they can continue their load of BS or perceived image of themselves. So what they'll do is they'll fake it, right? And that's exactly what this video is. He faked it. He sent a video out and said, oh my God, I'm having such an issue. I'm drinking all the time. And maybe he is. And maybe he finally got the stress of these 40 customers constantly contacting him and him having no money. I mean, imagine having $5 million in losses because you've spent it, and then the bank coming after you and saying, if you don't pay up, I'm going to take your house and car. You're going to be pretty stressed out too. It's even worse if it's 40 customers coming after you, and then you're like, oh, what do I do? So I'm sure that his coming forward worked in two separate ways. One, he felt better about himself because, now it's all out there in the open, right? It's sort of like someone who cheated on their spouse and they're keeping that lie inside, and then they release the lie and it makes them feel better, but everybody else feel freaking worse. That's what Anthony did. Anthony finally said, you know what? I'm coming forward. I'm going to tell you everything that happened, which makes him feel better, but still makes everybody else feel worse because they got scammed out of $5 million of their own hard-earned money and time. You know what money is? Money is a exchange of your time for money, which means that when you put time in, I don't care if it's 5 minutes or 5 hours to get that money, right? That time is something you'll never get back for this monetary value that you saved to buy something, then to turn around and say, you know what? I worked really hard for this, but I want to get something else. I'm going to go ahead and give it to Anthony because I trust him, because he seems like a swell guy who is trustworthy, and I'm going to send it to the timepiece gentleman, and then suddenly I'm out $20,000 that I worked hard for, that I saved for years, that I'll never get back. And then he releases this video that makes him feel better, but it doesn't make anybody else feel better, right? So one, he's finally released the stress. The stress is off his shoulders. Oh, he can take a deep breath, and now all of a sudden he feels better about his situation. And then he has the woe is me victim mentality, and now he can feed off the victim mentality and the views he's getting from that video. You don't think, now that we're all talking about him, he's not getting more traffic pushed to his YouTube channel, pushed to the Timepiece Gentleman's channel, right? He's getting more traffic pushed to this, and he's getting more monetary value pushed towards his videos and his content. People are going to want to know what happened. They're going to start looking at videos before to see if they can see these red flags. He's benefiting from it, which is kind of a shame, because this is why he'll never change. Because his next video was his redemption video, right? Less than 1 day later, he releases a video where he's not in a sleeveless shirt and a baseball cap trying to be one of the people, explaining to you how he's really down. He's really down in his luck, and he's an addict, and everything's woe is me and tough. But then he releases a video saying, you know what? That's the old Anthony.
The version that you saw of me yesterday was a version that was broken. I was I was on my last end. I was defeated. I was in what I honestly like to think I was at a rock bottom. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Today's video is a different version of me. The version you're going to see in this video is the version that's going to get me out of this mess. It's the version that gets me out of everything. Whenever I fuck up and I make a mistake, there is a side of me that knows what I have to do to fix it. I cannot change the past. It's out there. Everybody knows. Everybody's talking about it. Dwelling on it is not going to change it.
I've changed. Within a day, I've changed completely. And here's the way I'm going to get these people's money back, and I'm going to show you how I did it and how I'm going to do it. You're going to come along with me for the ride. Well, that means what he's trying to do is he's trying to get your revenue into his videos. He's still trying to get your likes. He's still trying to get your comments. He's still trying to get your views, which is why he'll never change. Instead of just buckling down and selling some shit and then paying these people back, instead, what is he doing? He is making videos explaining how he's going to get this back. You guys can follow right along with me while I again create my redemption video where I go from rock bottom back into hero status. Follow me along this. He's a scam artist, and he's going to continue to scam everybody unless you hear a video like this, which is why you can never trust him again. I would never do business with him or the Timepiece Gentleman ever again. And he didn't just ruin his reputation. He ruined the reputation of every single person who works at his watch dealership, and he stopped the market from wanting to sell watches on consignment. CRM Jewelers released a video saying why you can still trust some of us, maybe not all, but some of us, and why consignment is not a scam. And consignment is not a scam. You just have to pick the right place. And a lot of people pick the wrong place. $5 million worth of stuff was chosen at the wrong place, right? And not because it was a bad watch dealership company was because Anthony is just a piece of garbage and he just stole all your money. And he won't change because he's still trying to scam you with more videos. So let's discuss why Anthony should go back to prison, because he came from prison. He came from the ashes. He rose up like the phoenix from the ashes, right, into this person who's wearing a $900,000 Richard Mille watch that I could never even imagine owning ever in my life. So he was able to work himself up into this massive place from such a low place in his life, which should be admirable until you look at him and say, he's still trying to scam everybody. He's still trying to hang on to the social media presence. He's still trying to get your eyeballs to watch his stuff so he can get monetized through it, so he can regain maybe some of that money. But really, it's not. What he's going to do is he's going to end up maybe getting charged. Maybe. There should be a district attorney or a federal prosecutor somewhere who should charge him federally for fraud. $5 million being stolen from his customers is a felony level fraud. I believe it's an A felony in most places, which means he should get at least 10 years in jail. And do I feel bad about that? No, I really don't. Because you have to understand that he didn't just, oh God, I stole $5 million. He made hundreds and thousands of bad choices to get himself into $5 million worth of theft from his own customers, which means it wasn't one decision. It was like, oh God, I accidentally sent this $5 million to a Nigerian prince because I thought he was going to give me $6 million and I just made a mistake. No, he took your money and purchased rides on a private aircraft so he could have $1,000 cocktails on a plane. That's what he did. I don't feel bad for him at all, right? That's like feeling bad for Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, who did not kill himself. But it's like feeling bad for someone who has stolen money. Imagine if your grandmother was defrauded out of $100,000 and she lost her house and now she's homeless. Anthony is no better than that person I just described. I don't care if a person is worth $100 million and he defrauded them out of $12,000. It does not matter. A thief is a thief. They will steal bread from your table if they have an opportunity. If it gets them a level up, they will stab you in the back. Anthony is a snake in the grass, and he will never not be a snake in the grass. And he admits to all this. He admits to all of it. Everything I've said in this video is true. He admits to all of it. I just don't understand why anybody is saying anything positive about anything he's doing, because he's just a bigger scam artist. Now, if you've made it all the way to this video, thank you so much. I'm glad you guys have listened to my opinion. I don't know how well this video is going to go. It may get 10 views. It may get 10,000 views. I really don't know, but I think it's important because people are going to give him a second chance. And these people who give him a second chance are going to get scammed out of even more money. People are better than what they should be generally, because they give the really bad people second chances and third chances, and they really shouldn't, right? Right. Like, again, you spit in my face or you steal from me and you're done. You're finished. I'll never talk to you again. I don't care who you are. You could be my own mother, and I'm done. Because if you would have asked me for money, I would have given you money. And the only reason why you'd spit in my face is just to show how much you don't respect me at all. And that's what Anthony did. He spit in the face of every single person out there who entrusted him to their money, and he stole from them right after he spit in their face. Now, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. I got a lot of watch content coming up in the future. Man, I got so many watches here on the desk to review that I got a video coming every 3 days. This is a mostly watch review channel. The next video, which was supposed to be this video, but I wanted to make this video anyway. The next video is going to be a flamethrower video, so look out for that one. This is all things random, mostly watch reviews with some other awesome stuff sprinkled in between, like the flamethrower coming up. Got a lot of watches coming up. I got a bunch of Cadisons here. This is a mostly affordable watch channel because I am a poor person, middle class to poor. So I'm going to bring you guys more affordable watches. Though I may own a Rolex, I own 2 Rolexes, and I kind of showcase those sometimes on this channel. I wish I could afford another Rolex, but I would never buy another Rolex, and that's going to be a video coming up in the future. Make sure you guys hit the notification bell, and I will see you in the next one.